Do you feel from this experience that you owe anybody an apology? Do you see your own fault in any way?
As far as standing there, I had every right to do so. My position is that I was not disrespectful to Mr. Phillips. I respect him. I'd like to talk to him. I mean, in hindsight, I wish we could have walked away and avoided the whole thing. But I can't say that I'm sorry for listening to him and standing there.
This morning, 16-year-old Nick Sandmann standing by his actions in this moment gone viral. The junior at Kentucky's Covington Catholic High School, now the face of this Lincoln Memorial confrontation with Native American elder Nathan Phillips.
And what's it been like to be at the center of the storm?
Well, it's weird to see your face on television. I've been reading a lot, and, you know, I've also been getting a lot of messages from people, both support and a lot of hateful things.
Sandmann and dozens of his classmates had just finished attending an anti-abortion March for Life rally when they converged with 5 Hebrew Israelites, a radical movement that is growing more militant, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
They started shouting a bunch of, you know, homophobic, racist, derogatory comments at us.
What kinds of things did you hear them say?
I heard them call us incest kids, bigots, racists. They called us
a bunch of incest babies, a bunch of child molesting.
Did you feel threatened at all?
I definitely felt threatened.
There were more of you than them, but you felt like they were stronger?
They were a group of adults, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen next.
It's unclear from the videos who actually started the confrontation. Each side believes it was the first to be taunted. Sandmann says his chaperone gave students permission to shout school chants, an attempt, he says, to drown out the Hebrew Israelites.
Do you think it was a good idea to start chanting back at the protesters?
In hindsight, I wish we had just found another spot to wait for our buses, but at the time, being positive seemed better than letting them slander us with all of these things. So I wish we could have walked away.
Did anyone shout any insults back or any racial slurs back at the group?
We're a Catholic school, and it's not tolerated. They don't tolerate racism, and none of my classmates are racist people.
Did anyone say, build the wall?
I never heard anyone say build the wall, and I don't think I've seen it in any videos.
After a review of the videos, NBC News could not hear anyone shouting that hot-button phrase. But Nathan Phillips claims he heard the teens shout, build the wall.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Phillips was with a group of Native Americans coming from an Indigenous Peoples March when he can be seen walking between the students and the protesters.
I intervened, and things just escalated from there.
Phillips says he was trying to diffuse the tense situation. Sandmann says he was confused about Phillips's motives and why he was there.
At first, we were unsure of whether he was trying to join in and drum to our chants or what he was doing.
Did you feel like he was trying to get somewhere else, to go toward the Lincoln Memorial?
I'm not sure where he wanted to go, and if he wanted to walk past me, I would have let him go.
In that moment, he's looking at you, you're looking at him. What's going through your mind?
I wanted the situation to die down, and I just wish he would have walked away, but I knew as long as I kept my composure and didn't do anything that he might perceive as aggressive or elevation of the conflict, that it would hopefully die.
Why didn't you walk away?
Well, now I wish I would have walked away. I didn't want to be disrespectful to Mr. Phillips and walk away if he was trying to talk to me, but I was surrounded by a lot of people I didn't know that had their phones out, had cameras, and I didn't want to bump into anyone or seem like I was trying to do something.
The center of the firestorm, what critics characterize as a smirk on Sandmann's face, some saying it was an attempt to stare down Phillips.
What do you think that looks like?
I see it as a smile saying that this is the best you're going to get out of me. You won't get any further reaction of aggression, and I'm willing to stand here as long as you want to hit this drum in my face.
What some people see is a young kid with a smirk on his face.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say for people who see that and are making a judgment about who you are?
Well, people have judged me based off one expression, which I wasn't smirking, but people have assumed that's what I have. And they've gone from there to titling me and labeling me as a racist person, someone that's disrespectful to adults, which they've had to assume so many things to get there without consulting anyone that can give them the opposite story.
We looked at that video and thought about how it felt from the other's perspective. In other words, there were a lot of you, a handful of the others. Do you think they might have felt threatened by a bunch of young men kind of beating their chests?
I mean, I certainly hope they didn't feel threatened by us. I would just say that the fact remains that they initiated their comments with us, and I mean, they provoked us into a peaceful response of school spirit.
Sandmann says he didn't see other students performing what appears to be a tomahawk chop.
There's something aggressive about standing there, standing your ground. You both stood your ground, and it was like a stare down. What do you think of that now when you think about that moment?
Oh, I would say Mr. Phillips had his right to come up to me. I had my right to stay there. Our school was slandered by the African Americans who had called us all sorts of things.
As for those red Make America Great Again hats that some students were wearing, Sandmann says he bought his that day from a street vendor in Washington.
Do you think if you weren't wearing that hat, this might not have happened, or it might have been different?
That's possible, but I would have to assume what Mr. Phillips was thinking, and I'd rather let him speak for why he came up to us.
The conflict has caught the president's attention. He tweeted that Sandmann and his classmates were treated unfairly and have become symbols of fake news. Sandmann says he's appreciative of the president's tweets, but all the attention has taken a toll.
What's this been like for you and for your family?
It's been terrible. People have threatened our lives.
Sandmann says he doesn't want to live his life in fear, and he now hopes to come out of this with a deeper understanding of others.
I have the utmost respect for Mr. Phillips. It's another person that freely used his First Amendment right, and I want to thank him for his military service as well, and I'd certainly like to speak with him.
Well, as mentioned, we've interviewed Mr. Phillips a few times, but we invited him again now in light of this conversation, so I think we're going to hear from him tomorrow on Today. There was actually a really interesting moment at the school yesterday where protesters came, and there was a moment where a young kid who was wearing that red Make America Great Again hat, and another Native American said, you know, maybe we should just sit down. These guys said, maybe we should just sit down and talk about it.
They swapped phone numbers, and they agreed to have a meeting. It's nice to see a little thawing in those tensions, because you saw that moment, and
it was also nice to hear from that 16-year-old whose face and that expression that he made for a lot of folks became a symbol of a lot of different things. It was good to hear from him for the first time since we had heard from Mr. Phillips.
Well,
it'll be good to hear from Mr. Phillips.
Situations you actually have video, so people are certainly free to make their own judgments about what they think happened there. By the way, it was an adult in that video. I thought it was a student, but it was an adult who was there at the protest yesterday.